Hi, I'm Naomi May. I'm a fashion editor and we're here with the SATCoL podcast, The Sustainable Conversation. Today we are joined by Stuart Trevor, fashion designer, founder of All Saints and founder of his own eponymous label, Stuart Trevor. Welcome to the Sustainable Conversation, Stuart.
Hi, how you doing?
So you produce a clothing brand that doesn't produce any clothing. Explain to me how that works.
So, there's already far too much clothing on the planet, and I've had 40 years in the fashion business. And I sold All Saints in 2007. Had another brand after that for 10 years called Stuart Trevor, which was, we dressed virtually every rock and roll band in the world. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I was semi-retired, but I was mentoring young brands that have a positive social environmental impact. And there was a clothing brand that called the SATCoL, which encouraged women to empty out their wardrobe and they photograph it on each other. The girl that set it up with a lot of interns, they'd photograph it on each other, put it online, and sell clothes. And they were starting to build this business, and I was mentoring them. And another brand called Fanfare Label, which amazing denim brand, a really fabulous girl called Esther Knight, who is ex Westwood. She set that up, and she was taking vintage jeans and embroidering on them and making really cool things out of other people's waste. And I was taking these young startup brands and introducing them to investors. And these investors were like, yeah, they're great. Why don't you do another brand? I used to love All Saints. I was like, the last thing the world needs is another clothing brand. I honestly thought I'm never going to do another brand again. After the 10th guy asked me, I'm like, what about a clothing brand that doesn't produce any clothes? What if everything that I do already exists, and all I do is cut them in half and patch them up and bead them and paint on them, or do something really interesting, or throw splatter paint on them, and I started doing it, and now I'm very happy doing that as an old man. It's kind of fun.
I think it's fair to say that you are a fashion industry veteran, Stuart.
I used to be the young kid. When did that happen?
I know, it happened seemingly overnight. What shifts have you seen in the fashion industry at large in regards to sustainability over your career? Every
Time a designer or big brand, Burberry, for instance, orders 30,000 max. They have to produce 300,000 meters of cloth to make these garments. Maybe the maths is not quite right, but maybe 10,000 meters. But the fabric mill has to make 11,000 meters. So there's 1,000 meters of cloth that gets produced because there's always mistakes. And every single meter of cloth, they check it over a light box. And if there's a little slub in it, they put a little bit of string at the end of the roll. If there's more than 20 bits of string on a roll, that's considered a defect and they can't sell that. That's why there's a famous saying that says no strings attached. That was because in the old days, if a tailor rang up and said, "Can I have 10 meters of cashmere? No strings attached," and that's where that saying comes from. You don't want any problems there.
I didn't know that.
So I would take that dead stock and turn it into living stock. I went around Italy buying up 1,000 meters of this and I would take it to little factories, put it into work and get it into Reese within a month. And it used to quite often, the Reese had never had a designer before. So the first time ever, I was designing stuff, putting it in the store, it would sell out. David would be like, "Get back on a plane to Italy, go and get more fabric." We're talking 40 years ago. So this was before the word sustainability or sustainable existed. Nobody knew anything about it. I was just going around using up what I could find. I've kind of like gone the full circle, but I'm kind of cutting out the middleman now. Now I don't take it to the factories and get them to copy it. I'm looking at it, and I look at it and I love it. And actually, nowadays, when you look at it, if you compare all this dead stock, the garments that you find, and the quality is so much better back in the day. It's quite well documented that in the last 20 years, manufacturers, the quality of production is just not as good as it used to be. Manufacturers and clothing manufacturers, they don't want you to wear the garments for life. I did. When I launched All Saints, my number one word was longevity. I wanted people to buy clothes and wear them for life. And the funny thing is, now that vintage All Saints is worth more than new All Saints. It's collectible and people love it because it's...
Well, that's kind of what I want to talk to you about, because just before we started filming, you and I were talking about how there's a generational shift in now what's considered cool, and actually secondhand things, like you just said, have actually, it's come full circle, and actually that's now really desirable for younger people.
Yeah, my kids are 17, 20 and 25. And all three of them wear nothing but vintage clothes. They don't shop anywhere. And it's not just because their mum and dad are the founders of All Saints, because they raided our wardrobes years and years ago. Their friends are all the same. They come and hang out with me at my studio in Hoxton. Everyone's welcome to come there. We have a really beautiful old Victorian loft in Shoreditch. We set up there, we design from there, we run it like a shop, we have parties and things like that. My kids bring all their mates, they all turn up, they're all wearing vintage, they wear nothing but vintage clothes. And there's actually a social divide where they won't even hang out with people that go shopping at, super brands or fast fashion or whatever. We're not going to stop people from buying clothes. So if I can produce a collection and everything is made from clothes that already exist, then isn't that great? Because you get the dopamine rush and there's no guilt.
And you were just speaking there about vintage, which I'm a huge fan of as well. How do you feel about charity shops too?
That's my favourite. I out of everywhere, and I love it because I know that I'm giving back and I'm doing good. So I go to a charity shop, but it's the treasure hunt. You go through the racks there. Sometimes some of the best secrets of mine is where you go to an area in the country where might be slightly wealthier. You go to the charity shops there, you can find, the charity shops know that they can charge more for it, but I've picked up some incredible pieces in charity shops that, Jill Sander embroidered trousers for, I think they were £60. They would have been £900 or something, but I picked them up and I'm like, wow, and I will go and pay that because I for me, I've got those Jill Sander trousers. I wear them all the time. I love them, and so yeah, charity shops.
And you're also giving back socially as well, aren't you?
Yeah,
because the Salvation Army, for example, supports vulnerable people across the UK. So actually, it's like a full circle thing. It's not even just the environmental thing.
100%. And I honestly believe I'm very lucky. I come from a very humble background. I've done pretty well for myself in my life. There are lots of people out there that hopefully are listening to this podcast. I believe that anyone that has a nice quality of life, it is your duty to go out and support, go to charity shops and give them your money, find things in there, and stop going to fast fashion brands, stop shopping at super brands, go to charity shops and have some fun. Go with your kids, bring your wife and have fun. It's great.
What inspires you now with Stuart Trevor?
My greatest inspiration is my teenage self. If I look at what I was like when I was a teenager, I grew up in probably the greatest decades of history of pop music, rock and roll, post-punk, indie, soul music, hip-hop. I wanted to be the lead sort of protagonist in each one of those movements from, I was never a skinhead or a teddy boy or a mod or whatever like that, but all the other, when you think about all these British subcultures, where do I get my inspiration from? There's so much out here. We do happen to live on the most creative island in the world. The head designers in virtually every one of the super brands and all over the world, majority of them are British people. So, you know, we're a very creative country.
And when you think about the future of sustainability, where do you think it's heading? You know, I know, for example, that our friends SATCoL are an industry leader in post-consumer recycling of polyester. Where do you see the future of sustainability heading?
I just learned today that they have a machine that takes polyester garments and recycles them back into yarn. That didn't exist. So that's a major step forward, and that's really exciting to me, because I'm completely horrified by what's going on. But if I can't get millions of people buying from a brand that doesn't produce any clothing, then it's a shame, isn't it? I want it to be the most popular brand in the world.
I mean, I can vouch for how adorable your upcycled denim shirts are, Stuart. They are divine.
I'm amazed. And how we got there is a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
I started out, I had beautiful vintage khaki Vietnam War era shirts, and I'd collected them. I had about 120 of them. And I started trying to sell them as they were. Nobody really wanted them. So I had an idea. I found a load of dead stock sequined fabrics, and I cut the back out of the shirts, and I replaced the back with this sequin fabric. So there's a reveal. So from the front, it looks like you're, you know, on the parade ground, and then you turn around and you're in the disco. And I wore one of the first ones walking through London Fields, and I had 3 girls run up to me and go, "My God," they walked by me, and then they turn around and chase it. "Right, where did you get that shirt from? That's the most amazing shirt I've ever seen."
If ever you need an endorsement that whatever you're doing is trendy, it's being complimented in London Fields. I do believe that's the metric of success. What are some of your favourite conscious things that you do as part of your daily routine that somebody else could pick up tomorrow?
Oh, I mean, I've been obsessed with it for years. The amount of plastic that we get in every single thing that we buy. So I no longer buy packaged fruit or vegetables. If I buy anything, I always buy it loose and put it in a brown paper bag. It's abhorrent how much, you know, plastic and packaging and all that sort of stuff there is.
What's one actionable thing that people could do tomorrow if they wanted to start living in a more conscious way?
Why don't we go back to the days when we had garments that we treasured? Yeah, it would be so much nicer. Stop buying things that you don't need. Don't walk into these fast fashion shops and you see 2 T-shirts for £3. I mean, when you think about a T-shirt that's £3 or whatever, who has earned a living wage that was involved in the production of that T-shirt? People don't value cheap garments. They're just, no one goes, "Oh, I can't wait to wear my £3 T-shirt tomorrow," or whatever. They get up and they think about a garment that they really love, that they, like me as a young kid, went and did loads of odd jobs to earn the money to go and buy something I really loved or whatever. And I think that's, you know...
It's valuing things, it's treasuring the things that you have and making sure that you look after them, which I think is really, really important.
I think it would be much nicer if we all went back to having less and really loving the things that we do own.
Definitely. Well, on that note, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us on the Sustainable Conversation today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for having me.